Welcome to Getting Started with Lat Long Marker. We assume you've installed the software, and if you've done so, this icon should appear on your desktop. We'll go ahead and click on that icon and a form should appear which allows us to navigate to the location of your database. In this case, we're going to select the C drive and we're going to look for the @svd folder and click on the fpd-sys file. We'll do that, click I agree, and we in Lat Long Marker. If you don't have the icon, you can launch it from the Programs menu by going down the lower left-hand corner, clicking on the Start, select Programs, and locate Lat Long Marker, and clicking on it. This will load the same form as before, only this time you can see that it's remembered where we were, so all we got to do is select the fpd-sys file, I agree, and we're in Lat Long Marker. Now we're going to load the database and set some defaults. We do that by going to the upper left-hand corner of the form and selecting the state. We'll click that and we'll select the county here. We'll just select Garland. We'll click Select, and you'll notice that a little map appears in the lower right-hand corner. We'll left-click on that, and it expands to the full screen. We'll locate a position on that map where we place of interest. We'll left-click, then we'll take our cursor and we'll go at the top for the toolbar. We'll click to the minimum button. There's the maximum button. If you want to zoom down, you can click the magnifying glass with a plus to zoom down, magnifying glass with a negative to zoom out. We'll click the minimum on the toolbar. We'll left click on a position, then we'll go down and we'll click the mark button. That's very important because that establishes a coordinate pair. You can see here it puts a crosshair in the coordinates that there. If you click to the top, it pans to the top, click down, it pans to the bottom, right, it pans to the right, left, it pans to the left. In other words, any place you click, it centers this map on that location. Next step, we'll go pull down the different map layers. You can see there over here on the form on the right hand side. We'll click the little button with the three dots on the selected map panels, and you can see the different types of layers there are. You've got C for custom, you've got H, FIRM for historical flood insurance rate maps, and FIRM for your current flood insurance rate map. Then you've got the down here you can see we've got DOQ, which is aerial photo. We're going to click on that, and it puts the aerial photo into the screen here. When we go ahead and we will go ahead and left click on a structure, then we'll go down to the right hand corner, click mark, and that locates or sets a coordinate pair for that position. You can clearly see here it's hard to read the black on the dark aerial photo, so we'll go up the top and we're going to select the projects menus and click on settings. Now in settings, these are settings that apply to in this case the default, because they're selected to the default project when the system startups. And you've got three lines here of headings that you can change. Typically we are typing in a company here, and we might have under next on line 2 the address of that company. On the third line we might put in something such as a phone number. These headings are used in different reports throughout the systems. An example of that would be a firmette and other information. After you put in these headings here, you might go in and you can select with the first button on the line over here, you can go ahead and you can change the font, which we'll do here in a second. Finish getting this phone number typed in. I'll go ahead and we'll click on the first button, and that allows you to change the font size and type. And you can click on the second button, that allows you to change the color. You can also, of course, at the top you can see you can left or center it. Other information you can change is the cursor size. Default is 400. The higher the number, the larger the cursor, the smaller the smaller. Now we can go in and select the line width of the crosshair. We'll select a 2 here and say OK. And you can see there's some check boxes here for displaying the lat long and the note information, which is down below. We're going to go click on the color of any fonts that are printed around the crosshair. So we'll select a lighter color so it'll contrast against the aerial photo in this case. You can see the NA, we'll cover that later. You've got the different layers. We're going to set the default to DOQ. We'll see how that works later. Then you have the default unit of measure we're going to leave to feet. Now we're going to go down and we're going to clear out these notes 1, 2, and 3. This information is primarily used when you're doing projects, so when we get into projects we'll go over that. And the checkboxes at the bottom, we're going to leave those done. We'll go over plotting in NGS later. We're going to uncheck the notes section of this, then we're going to go down to the lower left hand corner of the form and click OK. Now this just saves the information to memory, but not permanently. So what we're going to do is go back up to projects and select the save, and then we're going to click the save button there. And what this is going to do is save this information out to disk. Now whenever you load the system, it automatically goes to default and these settings will be maintained. We went and clicked on the mark button again. You can see it changed the color of the latitude and longitude and got rid of the note section. Now there are 3 ways to locate a position with latitude marker. The first one would be browsing, and then the second one would be to type in a latitude and longitude search, and the third one would be using the Google Earth address search. We're going to go over the first here. We're going to go over browsing. In browsing, you would start off usually with the index map, and you would click a location of interest on that index map. We'll do that and then zoom in and we'll mark a position. This would get us approximately where we want to be, and then we will go down to the layers and we will pull up. In this case, you can see it put the latitude and longitude coordinates there for us of that marked position. We'll pick up the DOQ layer, and it brings up the aerial photo of the area in question. Now we might have a specific structure there, so we'll find a structure, we'll left click, and we'll go down and we'll click the mark button. That establishes a coordinate pair for that structure. Then we will go over and we'll select layers and we'll select the FEMA map here in this case for that structure, and we can see the location of that structure relative or on the FEMA panel. Now you can go in reverse here. What we'll do is we'll pan over around where the lake is here and maybe some of the flood areas, and you can mark a position on the flood panel, which is what we're going to do to the end of this cul-de-sac here, and we'll left click on that. We'll go mark it. Then that establishes a position there. Then we can go click on the layers. We'll go back and pick up the DOQ layer, which is aerial photo. Now we've done a reverse. We went and marked a position with the FEMA panel and located that on aerial photo. I'm going to slide over here a bit and find the structure here. I'm going to left click on that structure, and then I'm going to go down and I'm going to mark that structure by clicking the mark button, which is very important. And once we've done that, you can see we're going to go over here, and you can see it's computed coordinates for that structure. Then we're going to go down and pick up the FEMA panel. We'll go click that, and now you can see the location of that structure on the FEMA panel. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. You will note that there is a Google Earth emblem out there on a button. It says KML on it. We're going to go up to that button, which is in the upper right hand corner of the form next to the lat-long marker logo, and we're going to left click on that button, and it should automatically launch Google Earth. And in doing so, it's going to zoom down to that specific marked location on Google Earth, and it's going to take the FEMA panel, which we're selected to, and it's going to map it to the surface of Google Earth. You can see here that if I zoom down a bit, you can see the crosshair of our marked position of our structure. I'm going to go up and click on the button and display the sidebar. And you'll note that, adjust that there a little bit, then within the sidebar in the center of it, there's a sliding bar. If we slide that to the left, you can see we can control the transparency of the FEMA panel. And this is very important because you can see information on Google Earth like the buildings and other information, and things such as streets, which will be plotted over the surface of the FEMA panel, which may not have that information normally. You can also see that we can rotate this panel three-dimensionally, and you can see that it does map it to the surface of Google Earth. And so you can look at it from any position. And this has the ability so that you can see how the flood zones fall against the terrain, which can be very important at times. Now we're going to go to the upper right hand corner of Google Earth and click on the little red button, and we're going to select discard from this menu here. And it's always important you select discard. And you can see now we're back into lat long marker. The next way to find a position is with latitude and longitude. Now what we've done here is we went out and we selected or collected a latitude and longitude from a corner of a building, and we're going to go up and click on the little hourglass or the search glass and select latitude, longitude, and then we're going to type that in the form here. Latitude first, then longitude, and always space delineated with the degrees, minutes, and seconds, and you can put tenths and hundredths and thousands of seconds if you want. We'll get that typed in. Then we're going to go click on locate here, and as soon as we do that, it computes that location onto the aerial photo, and it's on the aerial photo simply because that's what we said is the default earlier, as the default load photo. You can see now we're going to go up and launch Google Earth, and we're going to just check and see how that lines up. How does this latitude and longitude line up with the structure on Google Earth? And sometimes they align quite well, sometimes they don't. This was taken with a GIS grade GPS system. Looks like it lined up. Yeah, that would be right. That's the southwest corner of the building, and it lines up. In this case, it's pretty much dead on. So we're going to go out of lat long marker, and then we're going to go select the different layer, the FEMA panel for that, and click on that, and you can see it's put the crosshair. We're kind of on the edge of the flood zone there, so let's go up and click on Google Earth once more. Have it launch Google Earth, and we're going to zoom in and get a higher degree of resolution with Google Earth, because we can also see the buildings and structures and associated area as well as the flood zone at the same time, and we can also look at it three-dimensionally and look and see how the terrain model follows. We'll go select our transparency there so we can see both. We'll do about 50%. We'll zoom on down here, and you can see that we're right on the edge of the floodplain there, so this structure definitely would require an elevation certificate to take it out of the floodplain or something that close. And you can see how these, if you zoom in here a little bit, you can see how these other buildings along the same cul-de-sac all fall into the flood zone. So they would all have to have elevation certificates as well to remove them from the floodplain. Now we'll go ahead and you can look at the last way to establish a point or a position, and that is through the Google Earth search. We'll go down, pull down the search, and you can see there's a button with a Google Earth emblem that says address on it. We're going to click on that, and it's going to go ahead and launch Google Earth again. Now, it's not going to, even if you're selected to a FEMA layer, it's not going to put the FEMA panel up at this time. It's just, this is strictly for the searching of address. So it's zooming down. In this case, we're in Fresno, California, and zooming down to our office location. Looks like the crosshair is about over the break room. I'm going to type in an address I'm familiar with here. Let me type this in here really quickly. And then once we get the address typed in, we'll click on the little magnifying glass there, or you can just hit return, and Google Earth will, if it's in their database, will go find that address position on Google Earth. In this case, it could be in front of the building. Generally, what you want to do is establish the structure, usually dealing with structures in the flood zone. You can see it puts a little square box with a plus in it there, and when we move the hand over that box, it highlights it and it turns to an arrow. So when we highlight it, we'll right click with our mouse, brings up a menu. We're going to select copy, then we're going to go up and we're going to click the discard button on Google Earth. Do that real quick, and you can see we're back in the lat long marker. We're going to move over to the Google Earth emblem with the words lat long, click on that, and it takes us to that position on lat long marker. So we found an address that way. Now we're going to go over and pull up the different map layers. We'll pick up the FEMA layer here. We'll select that. And we can clearly see the location of that structure on the FEMA panel in relation to the flood zone. So if somebody were to call you and say, hey, this is my address, am I in a floodplain? You could, using this method, you could find out very quickly. Thank you for staying with us through this, and